All right. Welcome into the Buttered Popcorn Podcast. My good friend I've met off of TikTok, Dan. What's going
How's
on,
it going,
brother? How you
man?
doing?
Good. Happy to be here.
Yeah, dude. So you asked me an intriguing question right beforehand, so let's rip that.
Yeah, I'm just curious, like, kind of how you got started, what the process has been like for you, how it's been going. I'm pretty new to podcasting in general, so just wanted to hear your take, given that you're in it.
Yeah, honestly, it started mainly probably because I was annoying my wife with how much I would just talk about movies. And, like everyone in my life, I just go and talk to movies about no matter what they've seen. It's always something that comes up. And, I listen to like Rogan and like Raiders of the Lost podcast and everything. And I was like, you know what? Why not just like start recording this, see where I can go with it?
Mm-hmm.
So I gathered a couple of my buddies, one of which I know is a huge movie fanatic, but he's gone on to be on a podcast with former Reds commentators about baseball itself.
Nice.
So I couldn't blame him for leaving. The other one had to step away because he's trying to be a gamer. So then it came to me, and I decided to keep running with it. I'm not going to let that stop me.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. It's a lot to take on by yourself, especially after having that support previously, but I think that's really, really cool.
Well, yeah, honestly, the biggest like hiccup right now is just finding like reoccurring guests or like just people I can talk movies with. Because like I feel like if I did it by myself, like it would just better to do a YouTube channel for rather than posting this. But then, it all comes down to like you make an account with Apple, Amazon, Spotify. You get all the links, and then through Anchor, you can put all the links. So you'll just hit upload, and it uploads to all of them. The only one I have to go in separately to upload to is YouTube.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
And do you feel like are all of those kind of equally user friendly and on the actual like streaming end, or what are those interfaces like?
So Anchor is really cool with that. It'll tell you the analytics and like who's watching your podcast most where, like age group, gender. So it seems like my biggest interface has got to be Spotify. Like
Gotcha.
it's where most of my fan base is. Other than that, it looks like Apple and YouTube are the runner ups.
Gotcha.
I did
Yeah,
just
I
have
come from an
someone reach
analytics
out to me.
background, so all that stuff's really interesting to me in terms of the
Oh,
back
hell
end.
yeah.
I like that stuff a lot.
Hell yeah. You're from Philly, so how are you liking Jalen Hurts' stats from last year?
He's great, man. He's I think when he got drafted, there was a lot of kind of uncertainty. People were like, "Why are you taking him second round? This and that." But it's paid off. He's really incredible, and he's a good dude. Like he's really involved in the community. Really smart. Just works. I think he's gotten a lot of like sponsorships and stuff in the off season that he's kind of had to deal with. So I'm curious if that'll have any impact on like the beginning of the year. But he's pretty dialed in. I think it'll be fine. So.
Oh yeah, I mean, I have him as my number 3. So.
I think that's. Do you have Burrow too?
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, I understand your bias. That's all right. That's all right.
It's funny. I'm a 49er fan first, actually.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so I cannot
you might
wait
not like
to
Eagles so much.
see you guys this year.
Yeah, that's going to be I think that game is in Philly. That's going to be something.
Dude, I went into that championship game. I was like, I honestly think we'll lose, but this could be the game of the year. We just got ruined with injuries.
It was just disappointing. Like I wanted to see a good game, genuinely. Like nobody wants to watch that. Like even as an Eagles fan, it was just like I don't know. It's kind of anticlimactic. But I think the game this year will be good.
Yeah, I'm very pumped for that.
Trey Lance is just done. Like Trey Lance is they're done with him.
I mean, John Lynch says that he wants to keep rocking with him. But I mean, he's their QB3 right now.
Yeah, I've heard
it's already been announced. So
I've heard some stuff that they're trying to trade him. People were talking about the Eagles like maybe taking a look to bring him in as a backup because we have Mariota, which like is not a great ride to go on.
I forgot you had Mariota.
Yeah, he's been rough in the preseason, but for what that's worth.
Yeah, I don't know. There's rumor that they'll put together a package and we'll get Kirk Cousins.
You don't want that.
Yeah, I'm a Kirk Cousins defender, but I think if Brock Purdy plays this season like he did the last 8 games last year, we'll be good.
Kirk is on that the Netflix quarterback show. Have you watched that?
Yeah, I watched like episodes 1 and 2.
Okay. Did you find it worthwhile at all or no?
It's enjoyable. The worst part about it is Mahomes' wife.
She's on it a lot.
Yeah.
She's a lot. She's a lot. There's a lot going on there.
Yeah, dude, he would be so much more likable if it wasn't for his family.
Yeah, I mean, I still like him and appreciate what he does. I mean, even though he, beat us in the Super Bowl, like I like him.
Dude,
He's an
I'm the
interesting guy.
Cincinnati Mahomes defender. Like everyone here shits on him just because of how many times the Bengals have played them the last couple of years.
Yeah.
And like people here swear up and down Burrow is better than Mahomes, but it's just not true.
Yeah, what's the deal with is Burrow okay injury wise? I know he had a calf thing, right? Like,
He just had a calf strain.
okay.
So he says he'll be good by week 1. Jamar Chase is trying to convince him to stay out till like week 3. But
Yeah, I feel like that's one of those things. Calf injuries can be so finicky, like, and you can just keep tweaking that and tweaking that. Like, it can be tough.
yeah, I feel like he's still going to come back week 1 though. He's got that attitude.
Yeah, mindset. I like
Anyway,
Burrow
let's
though.
get back into movies.
Yeah, for sure. Sidetrack.
Yeah. So if you were to come up with one movie though, like what made you fall in love with movies? That made you want to like start making content and everything? Which is a hard question.
So to be honest, I think that kind of happened way before I got into this. So I would say my family was really really into movies from the time I was a kid. I kind of got exposed to a lot of different genres, a lot of different films. My dad and my mom both had a lot of favorites, so they just kind of showed us everything. Um, I feel like I was watching a lot of movies from the time I was really young, so I kind of got that exposure and got into it from a young age. I know some people, I think, kind of come to it later on. They might have a movie that really sparks that or gets them inspired, but I've kind of just always it's been a big part of like what I enjoy, how I like to spend my free time. So I think I started a little over 2 months ago in terms of on TikTok, and I really just kind of wanted a creative outlet, and I was thinking about things I'm passionate about, things I enjoy, and movies or something like kind of like you said, like I'll talk to anyone about um, any movie. Like I'm always interested to know what other people enjoy, their opinions on things. Even if I like something that they don't, I want to know why. Like, I have a lot of curiosity around it, and I just felt like I wanted to dive into doing something creative that I could, do in my free time that I would enjoy. So that's how I got into the TikTok stuff, and I've been enjoying it. It's been fun. Mostly really positive experiences, and met some cool people like yourself. So it's been good.
Yeah, the
What
film
about
talk
you? Like,
community is like kind of great in that sense. Like, I mean,
yeah,
if I don't know if you ever reached out to them, but Raiders of the Lost podcast we'll go back and forth on like Instagram, DMing each other or like movies and stuff. 14. He's got like 400,000 followers, but he's still hitting
wow.
me up. Like,
Yeah, that's awesome. Like people, like at the end of the day, it's about you know the community and kind of interacting, and like all of those conversations are great. And that's what you don't just want to enjoy movies by yourself. Like you want to share it with people. You want to talk about it with people and like get different perspectives. And it's really really fun. So I think I've had mostly positive experiences so far.
yeah, I would say the same. And then movie for me, same thing. Parents introduced me to so many things.
Yeah.
But it probably stems. My mom had leukemia when I was growing up. She's all good now, cancer free, like 12 years, 13 years.
Congrats.
But during that time, when she would come home from the hospital, because her immune system was so weak, we couldn't like do like a lot of activities because she had to be wary about germs. So we would be going to the movies all the time.
Wow.
So it probably stemmed from that. But if I had to dial it into one, Coraline is probably up there
Okay.
because we saw that like a month before we found out that she was cancer free.
Yeah, that just sticks with you
So,
emotionally. Like
yeah. So that's probably up there. And then the other one, probably Good Will Hunting.
yeah, that's my from the first time I saw that, it just kind of like really resonated with me, and I absolutely like adored Robin Williams. He's like one of my favorite people of all time, really, especially in entertainment. So that movie I think was really really special, and like the story behind it, like how that got made. Um, I think there was a lot of passion behind it from like Damon and Affleck and everybody, and getting that made in and of itself was such a
Absolutely.
task. Like, and it shows. So I love it.
Well, yeah, and because of kind of their story for that, now after Air just came out and they had the success because they brought in some young writers for that.
Yeah.
Or I think it's Affleck is opening a new thing where like he's going to be accepting scripts from unknown writers since Robin Williams did that for them.
Yeah, and that's That's amazing, and I think especially with where the industry is right now in terms of unwillingness to take risks, like always falling back on nostalgia or existing properties, like no one wants to take a chance on making a new story. So I do really enjoy um, seeing new things, seeing things that are unique, seeing studios take chances on films, and when those films do well, like it's great. So I think that's amazing. I think that's like much needed right now because a lot of that stuff is so stale.
Well, yeah, dude. And right now, it just seems like we're getting remake after remake.
Yeah, yeah, and a lot of them are terrible, and it's like,
Yeah, I mean, I still enjoy a lot of them,
yeah, for
but I
sure,
want
but
original ideas.
yeah, and you can tell when there is passion and creativity behind something, and then which sometimes is true. Like for example, with Maverick, like that was you can't make a better follow up than that. I loved
I
it,
think it's
but
better than the first.
yeah, especially like from a like the first movie is good, it's enjoyable, but it's pretty cheesy. There's some like silly elements in the story and the script and all that. So like it's fun, but the second movie is really really sound technically, I think. So I would probably agree.
Yeah. Well, I also have some personal beef with it. I don't know if you knew this, but I'm a Marine Corps veteran and I worked on aircraft.
Okay.
And so what I worked on survival equipment and I worked right by the guys who worked on ejection seats and all of that. So there's some actual Hollywood flaws in there. Like Goose would not have died.
So it could be like one quick example of like what you're talking about.
Well, so one, with the speed he was going in the jet, when they hit the ejection seat and the canopy starts to open, it would get ripped
Mhm.
off immediately.
Yeah.
And even on
Just
the
by
off
sheer
chance,
force, right? Like
yeah,
yeah.
like it's not holding on to that. Even on the off chance it does hold off, like if they were going slow enough, seats on all jets are like higher than your head and they have prongs to shatter the canopy if you were to
Okay.
eject and the canopy was still there.
So it's physically not possible for
So
that to yeah. Huh.
yeah, it was for Hollywood.
Yeah.
But I understand. I mean,
Yeah.
to make
Devastating.
the movie drama.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I have personal beef just because of my inner knowledge.
Okay. I mean that's interesting to know at least. I mean, it is a fun movie, but that's knowing that kind of technical stuff in the background definitely can be like, you know.
Yeah, and I'm sure there's stuff in other movies that people nitpick that have a background in that field that we don't even know about.
Yeah, for
Yeah,
sure.
so I always ask people usually if they want me to ruin Top Gun for them or not.
Yeah, but that's an example how like you talk to like everyone has some kind of information or personal their own personal background that will impact how they see a movie, and that's kind of a cool example of that.
Yeah, exactly. Or like reasons some movies resonate with others more than them. Like
Yeah,
I liked The Covenant a lot from this year, Jake Gyllenhaal's movie, but that was
I
not very well critiqued.
yeah I heard mixed things, and I feel like I feel like as a director he gets that a lot. That was Guy Ritchie, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like he's been kind of hit or miss, and he has like a lot of fans and a lot of critics. But I heard mixed things, but I think majority positive reviews. So I actually haven't seen it yet, but it's on my list. I want to see it very soon.
Yeah, I enjoyed it a lot. But I mean, Guy Ritchie's like M. Night Shyamalan. They make great movies or they make real bad movies. Like,
Yeah, yeah, and I think Richie has such a niche in like the like crime gangster movie. Like that is where he thrives. And I think sometimes as he strayed away from that, it's not gone so well. But again, I have heard mostly good things, so I'm excited to see the Covenant.
yeah, he's almost like a B tier Scorsese.
Yeah, that's. I think that's a pretty fair take. Like I like that. Yeah.
All right. Who's your favorite actor? Like, who's the one actor you will always see whatever they are in?
That's very tough. I feel like there's a lot of people kind of on the same level. Um, I love Christian Bale. I mean, I think it's a simple answer, but he doesn't miss very often. And I think even some of the films that aren't as good, like he is never phoning it in. And I think there's kind of a line of like being dedicated to the craft without being like overly pretentious and like making other people around you feel weird or like being miserable to be around. I think he is able to act really effectively and be dedicated without kind of like going over that line.
Yeah, I get that.
So
People
I
hate the
enjoy
take that
him.
I say he's a top 3 actor of all time. I think he
Yeah, I
already
mean,
is.
if you go back and that's ranking actors like that is something I haven't attempted to do yet. That would take. I feel like that will take me a lot
It's
of
so
time and
hard.
thought. Yeah. There's just so many factors to consider, and at the end of the day, like it's really personal. It's like what movies resonate with you, what performances resonate with you. Um, but yeah, I mean, I think he's incredible. So
Yeah, I'd say mine's Jake Gyllenhaal.
yeah,
It's
Jake's.
unbelievable he doesn't have an Oscar yet.
Yeah, I no a movie I really enjoy is Zodiac, and I don't think any of them won Oscars for that movie. Like it was Downey, Gyllenhaal, and Mark Ruffalo. But those performances are all so good, and I really like that movie a lot. But I think he's really talented, Gyllenhaal.
Yeah, I think if he got one for anything, it should have been Nightcrawler.
Yeah,
But
yeah. I
Prisoners is
mean,
one of my favorite movies of all time.
yeah,
Like he was amazing in that.
yeah. And Nightcrawler, in terms of just like a performance riding on one individual, like that's always really impressive to me. Or a movie riding on one performance, and that it's a crazy performance. It's really really good.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like there's few actors that can do it. I mean, Bale obviously being one in Psycho. You could, I mean, there's a lot of people in it, but you can make the argument for Cillian Murphy and Oppenheimer, obviously.
Yeah, I mean the that performance had to be perfect, essentially, just because of the sheer amount of screen time. And I think with Killian, like it's his ability to portray like emotion, like the way he uses his face, like all his facial expressions, the way he chooses to say things, like everything he says has so much intention. I feel like, and the way it's being delivered is really effective. He's a really really talented guy, and I'm
Oh
glad he
yeah,
got that.
did you watch Peaky Blinders?
Yeah, yeah, I'm a big fan.
Oh, dude, I love it. I can't wait for the movie.
I know. Do you know off the top of your head like the time frame for that or what?
Most recent I saw was they're shooting, or they're gonna aim to start filming, I think spring of next year, and hopefully have it out spring of 25.
Okay. Yeah, that's a long time. I mean, it always goes by fast though. Like I feel like I always hear about movies and then you kind of blink and they're there. Um,
Yeah, I mean, dude, that's how I feel with Marvel. But I mean, I'm losing so much anticipation for Marvel projects anymore.
yeah, it's tough, and that didn't happen overnight. Like it's cool how that kind of happened over like a fairly long period of time, but we kind of got accustomed to a lower quality of movie, I think, and now it's just you've lost that excitement, that anticipation. Like I used to be, and all my friends used to be so excited to go see everything as soon as it came out. Now it's just
Oh,
like
absolutely.
I don't feel that. And I'm pretty excited for DC now that Gunn's over there. Um, I think DC probably has, in my opinion, superior characters and more potential. So I'm excited to
I'm on
see
the
what he
same
does.
page. But
Yeah,
at the same time, like DC has killed their fan base with like just everything that's happened the last decade. That like
yeah,
Blue Beetle's been a disappointment in the box office because people know they can see it on Max in 30 days. So why even go to the theater?
yeah. And I think a lot of things have become, and I think this is one of the negative elements of what happened to Marvel is everything has become so reliant on tying into like a massive story and having this huge impact and big high stakes. So I think it's tough to sell a movie like that because to my knowledge it doesn't I don't that's not being carried over into Guns like universe, I don't think. And it's just kind of it's standalone story. So I think it's sometimes tougher to sell people on that, especially when, it's expensive to go to the movie theater and people can just sit at home and watch it. So I don't know. I think it's tough when it doesn't tie in like that.
Yeah, no, it's 100% true. I don't know. And without having Cavill there, we'll see how his Superman movie turns out.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, there's a lot of Cavill fans out there that probably will boycott seeing it.
Yeah, that the way I mean that could be an entire conversation on itself, but the way that was all handled was so bad. And like I feel like there's a lot of back and forth now with Gal Gadot. And she's saying one thing, they're saying another thing. Like it's just a messy situation. Like, I don't
Yeah,
know.
it's so hard to report on movie news for DC
Yeah.
because you'll post a video and the next day you got to change it.
Yeah. Yeah. And it makes you want, like, there's just so much disorganization and, like, poor communication, and it makes you wonder like how these people keep their jobs like at a high level. It's kind of concerning.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, my final question for you before we kick off our Tarantino ranking is: what's your dream director actor duo?
Director actor duo. Um, I don't know. There's so many good ones. I think Tom Hanks and Spielberg are great. And I'm not. It's funny because I'm actually not a big Tom Hanks guy. I don't really think he's that interesting or engaging a lot of the time. But I think Spielberg's been able to bring greatness out of him a lot, and I appreciate that. Like I appreciate when a director can amplify what an actor does well and allow them to do that. I think it's um, similar to like a coach on like an NFL team. Like the best coaches are the ones that identify what someone's good at. This is what Belichick did for forever. He finds people that are good at one thing and he
Yeah,
says, do that. And he doesn't try to make them do what they can't do. He
or
just lets them be what they are.
yeah, like McCarthy with Tua.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Just identifying strength and letting that happen.
I'm happy with what you said though, because I do think Tom Hanks gets overrated a lot.
Yeah.
I
And
think
he's been
I
in
think
so
he's
many
good in
movies.
what he
Like,
does,
yeah. But
and like
it's
he's one of the
particularly.
all-time classics. But and I have beef with Forrest Gump. Like I can't tell if it should be 2 hours longer or like 30 minutes shorter, and you cut out like storylines.
Yeah, I'm not a big Forrest Gump guy, not a big Castaway guy. But he obviously has had a lot of great moments in his career. So
Yeah, dude, mine and it won't happen is Tarantino and Joaquin Phoenix.
that would be. I feel like just seeing their personalities kind of intertwine and clash would be. I wonder how they would get along. But I feel like if they did, it could be really, really good. That's interesting.
Yeah, and I feel like Joaquin with a Tarantino script in hand would just be killer.
Yeah,
But I don't know. I'm sure you have, but Tarantino says next movie, The Film Critic, is going to be his last movie,
yeah,
so we won't
yeah.
see it.
I was reading a bit about that, and kind of had. I wasn't feeling too excited with what I was reading, but I'm sure it'll be interesting. If that is his last film, I just kind of wish it had been something different. I don't know if you feel the same.
Yeah, I agree. There was a rumor that went around for a bit that it was going to be his first PG-13 movie.
That's kind of shocking considering like the
I
thematic.
don't think it will be, knowing Tarantino.
Yeah,
Like,
no, I don't think it will be either.
because I mean, dude, like Once Upon a Time in Hollywood is most recent, and he might be the only director right now with how society is that could get away with like the brutal killings in his movies. Like at the very end when Brad Pitt's like beating her face in with a dog food can.
Yeah,
Like he's kind of grandfathered into that.
yeah, and like the way I mean, this is a whole conversation again, but the way he uses violence is like it's almost like tongue in cheek. Like it never feels quite real, but it is at the same time so violent and disturbing a lot of the time. But it just feels different than violence in a lot of other movies. It's very unique, I think.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I don't know why, but I think it's one of the things that draws me to him is like how over the top it is sometimes
Yeah,
too.
yeah,
Um, but he's my favorite director of all time.
yeah. I think he's up there for me, and for a lot of people. Like I think his movies are just kind of synonymous with movies in and of themselves, like as a entity, like over the last 25 years, 30 years. So I think his movies just feel really accessible. They're all interesting. They've been funny. They've been heartfelt. Like he's done it all. And he's established himself as someone like when he puts out a movie, you go see it. So
Oh yeah, and I think he's one of like the few directors ever to not have a single miss.
yeah, I mean, yeah. And I think I was back when I was making my video ranking his movies, I was really thinking about it. And I mean, I don't really like Death Proof very much. But outside of that, there's a lot of merit in everything, and it makes it tough to rank. But I also like it because someone could tell me their ranking that's totally different, and I'm not like I can see it, like I can understand it. I don't feel like it's cut and dried.
Oh yeah, well, from what you just said, our ranking's different already.
Yeah, I'm sure it is for a couple reasons, but I'm excited to get into it.
So is that you telling me your number 10 is Death Proof?
Yeah, it's number 10, and it's not really close for me. I think there's like, for me personally, there's a pretty good step up to number 9. So
Okay. I mean, I still enjoyed it. I think Kurt Russell played a great villain in it.
I agree with that.
The one of my biggest takeaways though that I didn't like about it all was the ending. Like just how all the girls are beating the shit out of him and then it just cuts.
Yeah, it's strange. I think the character is great. Like I like Kurt Russell. I think the whole kind of like grindhouse feel and genre, like I'm not into that really. It doesn't do much for me. Um, so I think that's kind of like the disconnect for me, just going into it. But a lot of the stunt work's really cool. I think is it Zoe Bell? She's doing like all her own stunts.
Yeah. Well,
The
and then
chase,
the scene where she's on the hood of the car,
yeah,
like that's all real,
yeah.
which is
So
ridiculous to think about filming.
yeah, and I definitely appreciate it for that, but I feel like in terms of character development, in terms of complex stories, like all the other movies for me have so much more to offer there, in addition to the action and that kind of intrigue. So that's why it kind of lags behind.
I get that. I get that completely. Do you still do a 5-star scale or how do you rate your movies?
Um, that's something I'm kind of figuring out. Like I kind of want to get into um something that I make my own in terms of how I rate movies, and I kind of want to incorporate that into each of my reviews. But I'm still kind of honestly figuring that out. Like I'm only about 2 months in,
I like
so
that.
I don't want to slap something on them in that way. But to me, it's just kind of an average watch. Not I'm not saying it's bad, but it's not something I seek out.
Yeah. Well, you've almost hit 1,000 followers in 2 months.
Like a week over that or so, but
Damn,
I've
good for you,
honestly just
man.
tried to. Thank you, thank you. I've just tried to be consistent and find people I think are interesting and engage with them, and just
Yeah.
kind of really put myself into it.
It's funny. I actually grew to 1,000 on my page off of 3D printing. And then
Really?
and then I decided to kind of shift ways at like 1,200 followers and I moved into like movies.
Okay. So what was it like? Did you have one video that went really big, or like how did that go at the beginning?
No, not really. I didn't have anything go like viral for a while. Like, so I think my most views I ever got was like 20,000. Um, and that was on movies I recommend to girls to watch with your like boyfriend or significant other. And it was all Ryan Reynolds movies.
Okay.
Um, and then, but that was at like maybe 2,000 followers. And then I was stuck at like 3,400 or like 3,500 for a while. And then back in April, I posted what's pinned at the top, that like Star Wars picture
Mhm.
thing, like the chronological way to watch them. Like it wasn't even my take on anything. It was just a chronological way to watch Star Wars. And organically it shot up to, I think it's at like 2.8 million views now. And from that I gained like crazy amounts of followers and it just started kicking off from there. So now
Yeah.
I'm sitting right around I think 5,500, 5,400.
Nice. Yeah, and I think things like that like are great because you might be like, oh, I'm not even giving an opinion, but like you're giving people something that they can say, oh, this is cool. Like I want to try this. Like I want to have this experience. Where they might have been wondering about like what is the actual way to watch these, and I think like providing value in that way is really important. And it's fun. I think it can feel not as satisfying like when you're not giving an opinion, but at the same time, like you are providing value to someone and it's something that they enjoy. So
Like you said it exactly. Like I was like, I feel like I'm not doing anything here to like
yeah,
benefit me. And I had posted it at like 11 o'clock at night and just went to bed, like thinking nothing of it.
yeah.
And it was funny because like I probably could have posted it like 2 weeks prior to when I did, but I was just getting so lazy editing the pictures so much. And then so I finally just posted it, went to bed, woke up, and it was at like 400,000 views. And like all these comments were like, I've been wanting to do this for such a long time, or like, it's like, thanks for this. But then like other people were like, oh, you don't have to watch the sequel trilogy at all. Like, just throw them away.
Yeah, I mean, some people just want to bring negativity and argue and just poo-poo something that other people are enjoying. It's just like that's how it goes. I don't really get that mindset, but it's out there for
Yeah.
sure.
And then there was one guy on there. He had commented on my video, and he was like, "Hey, man, like I know the pictures are different, but you just completely stole my idea. Can you give me credit?" I have never seen this guy's thing before at all, and I went to his page, and sure enough, he posted almost the exact same thing, words, hashtags, everything.
But
And he
that's the
had
thing,
posted
like,
it like a week prior. It looked like I ripped him off hard, and I'm like, I never did.
yeah, that's the downside when you're dealing with an app that has billions of people. Like, you're none of us are really making things that haven't been said before, but like we're still doing things that, like, it doesn't mean you rip something off, but everything is gonna probably out there. Like everything I've ever said, someone else has said. I feel.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't think I'm reinventing the wheel, but that doesn't. It is what it is. Like it's the nature of the app. So
Yeah, like I mean, dude, I did a stupid like bracket filter the other day, but I saw it from one of the guys you actually tagged, Jeremiah, and I like shouted him out in the comments. Like, if I know, like, I saw someone else do this first, I'm gonna give you the credit. Like, I'm not that guy.
yeah,
But that guy was mad. I think he blocked me.
yeah, I think that's that's a cool thing to do, like tagging in someone. Like I saw, I think on Monday, I want to say on Monday, I saw the thing about how Sunday is National Cinema Day, so it's like $4 tickets, and Sin Spidey had posted a video about it. So I just tagged him and said that he brought this to my attention, and I'm still like I'm going to share that to people that won't see what he posted. But I feel like as long as you're acknowledging, it's cool. We both want people to know that.
Know.
So
My whole mindset, and I blame the military for this, but like it's probably is one team, one fight. You know, like we're all trying to make a name for ourselves, or just trying to post our, comments on movies on TikTok. Like it's not like we're on the political side of TikTok where it's the left versus the right. It's hey, we all love movies. Like let's grow together.
Yeah, and I think like if we, if something we post can inspire someone to watch one movie that they might enjoy, like that's great. Like that's something they'll remember. They'll talk to other people about. Like they might really, really enjoy. So I think it's fun, like getting to just share, things that make us happy and things that brighten our day or make us think or whatever. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, exactly. All right, let's get back on track. We keep getting off.
Yeah.
My number 10, Jackie Brown.
Okay, so why?
I don't know. Something about it didn't resonate with me. And then I think my biggest thing is I hate the wasted potential of Robert De Niro with him just being a stoner trying to sleep with Samuel L. Jackson's girlfriend. Like, one, I thought the story arc was dumb and just kind of boring. And also, he's one of the greatest actors to ever live, and that's the role you write for him.
I see where you're coming from. I think it's an interesting role. He adds something. I think every moment he's on the screen, but being kind of given so little to do and say, I feel like as I was watching the film, like every time I watch it, I kind of am waiting for him to do more and like waiting for him to be more involved and have more to say. So I understand where you're coming from, but I do still just enjoy him being there. I think it's fun, and I kind of like that it kind of goes against your expectations in that way. But I get what you're saying.
Can see. I will say this is the only one on this list I've seen one time ever. Okay. Which I think it's also my most recent one. Well, I shouldn't say that because I watched Hateful Eight last night. But recent new watch, I think I watched this in April. So maybe upon rewatch, it'll definitely move up, but we'll see. But I know first time watch, it didn't land for me.
That's fair. It's in a very different spot on my list, but I respect it.
All right, hit me with your 9.
Okay, so at 9, I have Kill Bill Volume 2. I guess something I would ask for you
that hurts
like,
my soul.
Do you break these up when you're ranking this? Something I saw a lot of people saying is like, oh, it's one movie. Like, I break them up.
I also break them up, but I mean, yes, according to Tarantino, it's one movie, but he only did it, or I think he said it was Harvey Weinstein's idea. was that he
Yeah.
did it in 2 just because he wanted to keep everything in.
I will say, like, that's something that pains me, like with Miramax's involvement with so many of these, like seeing Harvey Weinstein plastered over a lot of these is like so rough, I feel like. But it just is the nature of what it is, but it's just kind of rough to see sometimes.
Yeah.
But that's a whole nother conversation.
Dude, that hurts
But
my soul. You're
yeah,
number 9.
yeah, and the thing is, I enjoy it. To be very, very clear, like to me, it's a really good movie. I think when I watch it, I find myself feeling like there's large patches of time where there just isn't much happening, and not in the way that it is in some other movies where there's like, I feel like there's patches of this you can just skip through, and don't really miss anything. And I like it visually. Um,
I hear
I
what you're
love
saying
her.
on that.
Yeah, like I love her story. It feels like they had a certain amount left over that they had to stretch into another film, and it feels a little stretched in that way to me. But there's still great moments. I love like her training montage. Um, I also think all the fights are really cool, but I think there's just so much more action in the first one, and it's so much more. I feel like action oriented. It's very different tonally. I do think the performances are still great, but it's just a very different feel, and that's why when people say like you have to rank these together, to me these are two very distinct movies, different tone, different pace, different totally different vibe. So I have no
Absolutely.
problem breaking them up.
Uh, I'm a sucker for backstories though, so her whole training montage, like, and where she
Yeah,
learns how to fight, I think that's what pulls me into this movie so much. And it's like the same with like Back to the Future 2. Like I love how they go back to back, like back to where they already were, and like seeing the behind of that. Like I love that part of it. I don't know what it is about that in movies, but it will always hook me in.
and it's funny you say that because that's another movie I don't love. I think it's the weakest, but again, another
Really,
conversation.
I think
Yeah,
number 3 is the weakest, but merely for the ending. Just because I hate the fact that Doc Brown came back, because even then in the beginning of the movie, he says there's no way to build a time machine with the technology we have. So I
yeah,
think it would have been a more poetic ending if he stayed in the 1800s, and then I might have 3 over 2.
yeah. I think that's fair. I think sometimes those type of endings can be more like going for that emotional punch can be more effective, but I think it's sometimes safer to have it just be like, oh, everything's okay. But I sometimes enjoy that little punchier ending. Another thing I wanted to say really quick about Volume Two is the way Bud dies, the with the snake and all, like that to me wasn't satisfying. Like I wanted to see her finish him off. And I guess that kind of like subverted expectations, but that to me was kind of a letdown because he's really despicable. And I kind of wanted to see him get dealt with.
That's fair. I don't know. I really liked it, especially with the whole like Black Mamba tie-in and everything.
Yeah, that's fair.
Um, no, I can definitely see, and I think I'm one of the few people that like 2 better than 1. Now, that's a personal liking. Critically wise, 1's better. So
Okay.
like I have this list in like critic. Like if it was by personal favorites, then it would be a vastly different list.
Okay. Got you.
Yeah.
So what do
All
you
right.
have?
Give
What do you
me
have at 9?
yeah. So my number 9, which this has to be his most controversial movie because people have it at the bottom or the top, is Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
Okay.
And
I
again,
think
I don't dislike any of these movies,
mhm.
but I I think the highlight of this movie's got to be Brad Pitt.
Mhm.
Every time he's on screen, I love it and it's fantastic. But other than that, I think the Leo scenes can be a little slow or just drag on. Um, but the weird critic take on this is like people are upset at how little Margot Robbie speaks, and
Mhm.
like everyone was like calling Tarantino sexist when it first came out. But
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there isn't really much in terms of. I mean, I think there's a lot you can dive into, like women's roles in Tarantino's movies a whole. That's almost a video itself. Um, but yeah, definitely a man dominated film for sure.
Yeah, but I don't think you can call Tarantino sexist when he has three female-led movies.
Yeah, no,
Or no, four. Four.
I definitely wouldn't label that at all. And I think the movie knows what it is. It's about Leo and Brad, and I think that kind of just is what it is at a certain point.
Yeah, and I still enjoy the hell out of this movie. And one of the reasons that Margot didn't talk as much either was Sharon Tate's sister that's still alive, or she was at least when the movie was being made. I don't know if she still is. Um, was saying that like she really enjoyed it because it kind of took the focus away from Sharon Tate's character and just showed her as kind of happy and describes how she was without, having to have too much there.
Yeah, I think it's difficult using something real like that was so awful and like so emotionally impactful. And I think a lot of people, I've talked to a lot of people that have a gripe about the ending, and that just in that it changed history and this and that. To me, that was satisfying to see. Like, I didn't want to see something awful happen to her. Like, that was terrible, obviously. And like seeing some like justice carried out there and seeing those guys get dealt with was awesome to me. But I can't speak on the position of like her family member or what it would feel like watching that movie, with some kind of personal relationship to what happened.
Yeah, and that's back to the same stupid critique as like sexist. Like, if people are upset about him changing the ending, then they probably hate Inglorious Bastards too.
Yeah. Yeah. And people complain about that as well. It's the same thing. And I'm like, it's a movie. Like, it's supposed to be Inglorious Bastards is supposed to be fun. Like, it's enjoyable. It's satisfying to watch that happen. So I think that's a little bit of a nitpick for me.
Yeah, people just get done with their critiques sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's just a perspective that I have a hard time sharing. I think I try to, see most things from other people's perspective, but that's one that I struggle with.
All right, hit me with your number 7.
So I think we just talked Death Proof and Volume 2, right? I think I'm at 8.
Oh yeah, 8.
So at 8, I have The Hateful Eight. I like it. I like it a lot. Again, this is really tough. A lot of these are really close. 8 and 7 to me are almost interchangeable. What I like about this is, I mean, it's a play. It's a play that you're getting to watch. I feel like the setting is so cool. The way it's so confined. You have these characters that are like so different. I think all of the tension between the North and the South, the individual performances here have to be so good, and they are. I like the dialogue. I like how snappy it is, and I think to me it almost has like a Clue or like Knives Out feel, where it's kind of like a mystery unfolding. You're not really sure what's going on in terms of like the characters' relationships and what's going to happen, but I do like all that. I think if it had been a little shorter, it would be way higher. I think there's moments that are just unnecessary. I think there's shots that just kind of sit there for not too much of a reason. And I think, especially in today's world where everyone has such a short attention span, I think if he had just cut it down, people would like it a lot more. But at the same time, like, I've thought about moving this up a good bit. Like, I go back and forth on it frequently, and if we talked in a month, I might feel differently. So I have it at 8. Still like it. I
I feel
mean,
like this is the one that gets like bounced around more than any other on this list for Tarantino rankings.
yeah,
Like, people don't know where to put it. Have you watched the extended version?
no, have not. What are the main extended? How extended?
Well, it kind of adds on to what you just said, though. Like, they add in longer shots that aren't needed, but cinematically, they're just gorgeous. Like, in the
Yeah.
very beginning, right after he picks up Samuel L. Jackson's character, there's like a 2-minute scene where it's just music and it shows the horses running through the snow in the mountains. Like, it's gorgeous, but really, I don't think the extended cut was needed. I don't think it adds too crazy amount to it, and it takes 4 hours and 56 minutes to watch the entire extended cut.
Like, nobody has that time. Like, I would
Dude, it's like
definitely watch one.
Scorsese's new movie.
Yeah, it's like 3.5. I'm excited for it, but that's
Scorsese's new movie is 4.5 hours.
4.5.
It's like 4.5 or like 4:15.
Oh my god! And like the thing is, I mean, I don't mind long movies. Like I'll watch basically anything if it's from a director I like or has an actor I like. Like I'm not too picky in terms of length. But for the large majority of people, I think that's a huge turnoff today, which is a shame. But people also just don't have the time or attention span. I think a lot of the time.
Oh, I absolutely agree. The one nice part about the extended cut is they made it episodes or
Okay.
chapters, if you ask Tarantino. But so, I mean, you could watch like one 56-minute portion and then like come back to
Big
it like
break.
the
Yeah.
next day or later on. Also, I'm realizing now I was completely wrong. You were right. It's 3 hours, 26 minutes for Killers of the Flower Moon. I don't know where I got 4.5 hours.
And when you said that, I was thinking maybe there's some kind of other version of that or something like that maybe that might exist. But yeah, even 3.5 hours is just so it's long, and I think a lot of people hated that about The Irishman, how long it was. But I like that movie. Um,
Yeah, the
but
classic quote, no good movie is too long, no bad movie is too short. Like,
yeah,
I mean, to some, Oppenheimer was too long, but I mean, that movie was unbelievable.
yeah, yeah, that was special. I almost I almost felt like the last 45 minutes to an hour could have been built into a movie of its own, but I think that would have been tough to sell. Like I would watch it, but it wouldn't have the same appeal. And it was still a really important piece of the story, so I'm glad it was there. But I think that was the only part that felt a little like they were just trying to get through it and tell the story. But again, it was necessary, I think.
Yeah, and it's kind of crazy to think too that Barbie helped sell some Oppenheimer tickets,
Yeah,
like just with the whole Barbenheimer thing going on.
yeah, it was a lot of fun. And again, I feel like there was a lot of negative, so much negativity around both of the movies, which is a shame, but overwhelming positivity as well. And it was just
Absolutely.
exciting and fun, so it was good to see.
The only people that didn't like Barbie were like hard political right dudes. It had to be.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I mean, I feel like seeing a lot of the criticism, I'm like, either A, you didn't watch the movie. A lot of people I've heard talk about it, and I will say the same thing about Oppenheimer. People that talk about both those movies negatively talk like they haven't seen it. And it makes me wonder, like, did you actually watch this? Because it seems like with both of them, like, you missed a lot of the main points that are like fairly obvious. So that was
Yeah,
confusing to me. Or I feel like they did watch it, but they went in with a mindset and told themselves, like, I'm not going to think differently about this. I know what I think about this movie. It's already a preconceived notion in my head, and it's not going to change. And that's just
or
like
there's
not a
the
good way to go into
people,
anything.
or there's the people just clout chasing on, the internet.
Contrarian, yeah.
Yeah,
Which, like, you can do that, but if it's not how you actually feel, it's just like cheapening yourself. Like, I definitely have a couple views on movies that aren't popular, probably views, but like they're my genuine feelings, and like I'll speak on them and talk about them. But nothing is like ever being said just for effect. Like I'm not going to say something I don't believe. Um, and
yeah.
I
I
don't
never
really,
say stuff for the comment section.
no, I also don't. I don't enjoy dealing with negative comments. That's not fun. So
It'll
I'd rather
happen still. If
Oh
you want
yeah,
to avoid that, avoid Star Wars.
yeah. I haven't really gone too much into Star Wars. I made a video about Rogue One because I love Rogue One, but that's about it, I think, so far.
Oh, there's people who are mad at me on a recent post I made on TikTok about my top 5 Star Wars everything, and I have Rogue One as my number 2 movie because
There's
I
nothing
think
wrong with
Empire
that.
is the best, and I think Rogue One is number 2. And people are like, "There's no way Rogue One is ahead of Revenge of the Sith and The New Hope," and I'm like, "It absolutely is."
Yeah, like I don't even feel like that's like a crazy take. Like I'm with you. If
Yeah,
I could
it
watch
shouldn't be
one,
a crazy take.
yeah, no. If I could watch one Star Wars movie for the rest of my life, like there's a chance it would be Rogue One for me personally. Um, and I guess that's also
For
just
me,
partially
it's
like
probably still Revenge of the Sith.
okay. That movie,
I adore that movie.
I go back and forth on it.
Oh, it has
I
plenty
don't.
of flaws. I'm not saying
Yeah,
it doesn't.
but there's a lot of cool stuff there, and there's a lot of
Yeah.
interesting. I think in the prequels, there's Attack of the Clones is just rough, but I like Phantom Menace a bit, and I like Revenge of the Sith. So,
Yeah.
and I would
All
prefer
right.
to watch the
So,
prequels, to the new ones. I mean, personally. So,
oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Number 7's enjoyable, but 8 and 9 are just dumpster
yeah,
fires.
yep.
All right. So, what does that put me on? 7 or 8?
Year 7, year 7. Yeah,
All
I
right. So,
think.
my number
Yeah.
7 is, yeah. Yeah. My number 7 is Death Proof.
Okay.
So, still towards the bottom of the list, but I still found a lot of enjoyment out of it.
Okay.
I just lost all train of thought. But I
Yeah, I
mean,
feel
I
like
like the beginning.
we got into it a good bit, so I feel like it's pretty
Yeah, like I
straightforward.
liked
But
all
like
the
what it
beginning
does well.
scenes.
Like,
Yeah, I like. I don't know why. But one of the scenes, well, it resonates with doesn't resonate. It sticks with everyone. But I think it's one of the cooler death scenes I've ever seen. Was the car crash and how it went back and showed the car crash 4 times in a row, showing how every single girl like died.
yeah, to me, like
I thought that was.
I struggle
Go ahead.
like seeing that. I'm just like, this feels gratuitous to me, but I understand also like the genre and like what those movies are supposed to be like, and it is what it is. Just to me, like it's not the easiest or most fun watch, but I
Oh, it's
understand
not
the
at all.
appreciation. Yeah,
It's just a unique way for me, and like it's very Tarantino for how they died.
yeah, yeah. I agree.
All right, so what is this? Your number 6?
Um, this is my 7.
Man,
So
I am off today.
no, you're good, man. You're good. It's a lot of movies to go through. My number 7 is Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. I
Okay.
And I think similar to kind of when you were talking about like the extended cut of Hateful Eight, like I like the way this movie feels. Like I like just looking at this movie. Um, I went and saw this on like a Sunday morning by myself. There was no one in the theater, and just like hung out and enjoyed it. I think they could have, again, if they had cut this down and made it a little punchier, I think it could have been really popular. But to me, this is just Tarantino doing what he wants, telling a story that he wants to tell, and I think he does it really well. Brad Pitt and Leo's chemistry is a lot of fun.
Absolutely.
It's very like buddy cop feeling, and I like both those characters so much. Like they're so fun. Um,
Tarantino thinks this is his masterpiece.
yeah, I've read that, and like you can like watching it, you can tell that he thinks that like, and that's what I enjoy. Like it seems like he's having a lot of fun. He's doing what he wants, and I appreciate that because I like him a lot. It's definitely not perfect, and a lot of stuff could be cut out. If this was shorter, I think it would be higher on my list by a couple spots. So that's
Yeah,
how I feel.
I could definitely see that for me too. Yeah, I don't think Tarantino has made a single perfect movie, but I do have one rated a 9.9 out of 10.
Okay, I can guess what it might be. Also, when you're rating movies, like do you do a decimal out of 10 system or?
Yeah.
Okay, got you.
So like so far, Jackie Brown right now is sitting at a 5.6 out of 10 for me. I said, I need to rewatch that one because I really don't think you can get a true score on a movie until you've watched it twice or 3 times.
Yeah, I agree.
Like I've never given a movie a 10 out of 10 on the first watch. I never will. And there's only 5 I've ever given a 10 out of 10.
Can I ask quickly what they are?
It's Empire Strikes Back. Life is Beautiful. Have you seen that one yet?
Have not.
So that's one you should definitely check out. It's sad as fuck.
Okay.
But it's an Italian movie. And pretty much the premise is this Jewish guy owns a bookshop, and then where World War II is kicking off, and he's trying to convince his son that a concentration camp is a big game of hide and go seek.
Okay, that sounds tough.
Yeah, it's gonna rip your heart out.
Yeah.
The Godfather.
Okay.
And Back to the Future is on there. I feel like I'm missing one.
Good Will Hunting.
No, I have that in the 9.8.
But that's like your emotional favorite.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh,
gotcha.
Jaws is the other one. Jaws is a 10 out of 10 for me.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think it's pretty much perfect for what it's trying to do.
Yeah, Tarantino says he thinks it's the best movie ever made.
Huh. Did not know that. That's a fun fact.
Yeah, there was some interview where they asked like Scorsese, Tarantino, Nolan, all these guys, all these big directors, what they think the 10 best movies of all time were. And I think it was Jaws and The Godfather were the only repeating ones on all of their lists.
I love hearing both directors and actors like talk about their favorite films, their favorite genre, like diving into that and just getting in their mind and like seeing their influences, seeing like what they enjoy, even if like there's some movies on there that guys will talk about or women will talk about that might not even be considered great, but knowing they enjoy it is just really fun to me. So
yeah, that's why I love the Letterboxd TikTok account for all their interviews they do. Like on the red carpet, they always ask actors and actresses what their 4 favorite movies are.
yeah,
I
yeah,
love
it's fun.
those bits.
Fun to see. Yeah, absolutely.
All right, so next up for me is I didn't even go through my. So Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, I have a 6.4 out of 10.
Okay.
Then we take a pretty big jump to Death Proof, 7.2. Reservoir Dogs, 7.9 out of 10.
Okay. So Reservoir Dogs is your 6, correct? Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
That sounds right. But yeah, I'm also on the side though that I think Reservoir Dogs gets overhyped a lot. That people have it as Tarantino's best.
Yeah.
I mean, there's far and few directors that have had such an amazing first movie ever.
Yep.
So he does have that going for him, which is funny. Did you know that he wrote the script for True Romance and sold it in order to make this movie?
I did not know that.
Yeah, he was working at some video store.
Yep.
Wrote the script, sold it, wrote the script for Reservoir Dogs, and then he had someone offer him like $30,000 to make it. So he was going to make it on like some shitty camera and like a garage, like a car garage that he was going to rent out. And his buddy at the video store was like, "I'll give you $100 and you give me 3 months to see if I can get a studio to pick this up. And then if not, we'll do it your way." So Tarantino gave him the 3 months, and then some studio offered them $600,000 to make it. Ended up not making it, and then I think it was Miramax offered them like 1.2 million or something to make it. So
that's wild.
Yeah. Now, I mean, Reservoir Dogs, though, I still enjoy the torture scene in this. I feel like was severely overhyped for me, though.
Like you went into it thinking it would be more graphic?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
So, like, my tattoo artist, he is like a movie nerd as well, and his nickname in the tattoo shop is Nice Guy Eddie from Reservoir Dogs.
Okay.
And when I was getting tattooed by him one day, and then he was like, "Yeah, dude, if you haven't seen it, like, just prepare yourself for the torture scene. Like, it's pretty graphic and gruesome." And like, I'd asked my mom, who's another Tarantino nerd, and she was like, it was hard to watch my first time. So like, I went into it like thinking it was going to be like the worst I've seen in his movies, and so I was a little underwhelmed by it.
Yeah, that's fair. I think a lot of his movies kind of have that one moment that's like the most shocking or like difficult to watch. I think there's usually one. So yeah, but I don't think it particularly stands out in relation to some of the others from other films. So I agree with you.
Which honestly, it would probably stand out more if that was the first Tarantino I ever watched.
Yeah. But once you kind of have a catalog of like some other things that have happened or stuff you've seen from him, you're like, okay, like this seems on brand and not too jarring.
Yeah, absolutely. But I will say this might be my favorite Steve Buscemi character ever.
I love Steve. Big fan.
Dude, I
And I
was
think
talking to
that's
someone at my work the other day about this. Like, there's certain actors I've like didn't know about anything else until like I started really deep diving into like classic movies about a year ago. Like Steve Buscemi, I always thought he was just the dumb guy in an Adam Sandler movie. Like,
yeah.
I always pictured him as the grown-ups character, not him as Mister. I think he's Pink in that. But then probably the other most notable actor, I always blank on his name, so I'm pulling it up, is Joe Pesci.
Yeah.
Up until like
Pesci's
a
a
year
legend. I mean,
ago, I thought he was just the Home Alone guy.
yep. You and many
And
people,
now,
I feel.
yeah. And then once you see things like Casino, you realize, oh, he's actually a damn good actor.
Yeah, and I think like seeing him in The Irishman, like at such an advanced age, I thought that was like pretty. And I mean, and De Niro, I think it was pretty like emotional. Like it's kind of like almost saying goodbye to those guys and like acknowledging like everything that they brought to the genre and gangster films and just like how massive of a presence they each were. I feel like that was like pretty emotional to watch, at least for me.
See, I still haven't seen The Irishman.
Okay, definitely
It's on my
carve out some
list, but
time and yeah.
yeah, I was gonna say, like, I know I got to carve out like a big chunk of the day, so that might be a Saturday night watch.
Yeah, it's a good one. Can I get into my six?
Yeah, hit it.
Sweet. So my six is Pulp Fiction.
Wow, that is a unpopular take.
Yeah. So a few reasons. I don't want to drone about it, but a few quick things. So first of all, I feel like pacing wise, it's too long for me. I think there's portions that could have been cut out. I think if this was not as short as Reservoir Dogs, but like just snappier, like I would enjoy it more. I also think, and on rewatch, I think about this more. I don't love John Travolta in general, and his character like doesn't do very much for me. I think a lot of people really enjoy him, but I don't get much from him personally. And I think if that had been a different actor, and I don't want to just wing someone off the top of my head, but if that had been someone different, I might enjoy it more because he gets a decent amount of time, and I don't really love his character. So I think that's one disconnect. I think,
I mean, I don't hate the take at all. I understand it.
yeah,
For me, the movie resonates a little more.
yeah,
But I mean, this also kind of revived John Travolta's career because he was like forgotten about. He had done a lot of shitty movies, and so
yeah,
I don't know if you heard this story, but Tarantino was talking about on Rogan. He was like, "I wrote the script, and then you send in like who you want for each part." And the only thing they called back and said was they didn't want Travolta, and they were like trying to throw out other names. I know. Who's the guy who tortures the guy in Reservoir Dogs? Is that Michael Madsen?
yeah. I think so. Yeah.
He was. That's who they were trying to push for to play him.
Okay. Yeah, and
But I don't know. I like Travolta in this role a lot.
I like the chemistry is good with Samuel L. I do appreciate that. I don't know, something about him just bothers me a little bit, and again, he just gets a good amount of screen time. I really enjoy Ving Rhames. I love, even though it's a smaller role, I love him in this movie. I really like Bruce Willis. I think to me, he's the most interesting character in the movie, and kind of that center piece of the center chunk of the movie is kind of around him. Spends a lot of time with him and his girlfriend, and I think he has one of the most interesting characters here, and I kind of like seeing him. But I don't know, and I think, like I said, pacing wise, I don't love it. I think another thing that's important when you're watching a Tarantino movie is if you connect with the bullshit, like the characters bullshitting, those moments, like you have to enjoy them, and they're very
Royale
different.
with cheese.
Yeah, they're very different, like in each movie, and for some reason, like those conversations here just don't really do too much for me. Like I don't find myself that hooked. So I think that's another disconnect because there's so much of that obviously throughout this movie. And also just some of the moments like the heroin overdose kind of turned me off. Like I just was like, this just feels like jarring. I don't know. Like I understand it's, it's real and it's visceral and it was a moment, but like it kind of turned me off. And also, the scene where Ving Rhames and Bruce Willis get captured by that psycho guy at the pawn shop. I'm just like, this is just, I don't need to see this. Like it feels
Yeah,
like too
Zed.
much. Yeah. It just feels like a lot. And I understand other people might not bother them, but to me, I'm just kind of like, like I don't, this doesn't do it for me. So, mixed
I
feelings.
definitely understand all of what you just said.
Yeah.
I think part of for me too, like I didn't live through it, obviously. Like I was born in '98, but like you can still see it in the movies at the times. Like the '80s was kind of like this area that we're in almost right now, like this era of just like political correct movies. Like you had to like every character and everything. So I think that's one thing that Reservoir Dogs and Pulp Fiction both did for the movie genre was they flipped the script and brought it back. You don't have to like everyone. But I mean, like I said before, my mom, she's a huge Tarantino nerd. Like her favorite movie of all time is Kill Bill. And
Okay. Love that.
yeah. And but I mean, even she doesn't like this movie, or like she just thinks it's okay.
Yeah.
Like it's so weird who this resonates with and who it doesn't. Like my wife, she sits down and watches a lot of movies with me if she doesn't fall asleep. And like she adores Pulp Fiction, but like she can't watch Kill Bill Volume 2.
That's pretty wild.
Like,
So she like, why does she feel that way? Like
yeah,
particular things, or
a big part of it is probably she has a weird thing with eyes. So
okay,
the snake scene, the woman getting her
yeah,
other eye ripped out, stuff like that turns her away. But like, I just think it's so funny how controversial Pulp Fiction is that people can like sit through that and find enjoyment out of it and
hmm,
like the dialogue and everything that happens in it. But then like they'll turn around and like Kill Bill Volume 2, which you could argue is one of his more mild movies.
yeah,
Like they
yeah.
will be turned away from. So I don't know. I think the
One,
movie's so quotable and I love it.
yeah,
I have
yeah.
Ezekiel 25:17 tattooed on my thigh.
Okay, all right. So you're a big fan. And one other quick thing, I think I understand one of the points of the movie is moral ambiguity, looking at like basically awful people and saying like, can they be redeemed? Like, can you have a moment where you decide to be better? Like, but to me, when everything happens with like Butch and Marcellus and they get like when Butch goes back in, like he just tried to kill Marcellus, like just tried to kill him, and I don't see him going back to save his life. Like he wants to get away. He just wants to get away with like his girlfriend and like have a new life. And that person that's being like tortured is the person who's actively trying to kill him and stop that from happening. I don't see in the course of like 10 minutes or whatever him making that decision like, oh, I should save his life. And I understand it works out for him, but that to me, I was just like, I don't think this character would do that based on what we've seen from him so far. So that was just kind of weird to me as well.
I get that too. I mean, he could have, I mean, obviously we're speculating a fictional character, but like he could have also had the thought process, like he knows the power and like everywhere that Marcellus like has guys, like he's international. We get it
That's
from the
fair.
beginning. So maybe like, and Marcellus makes the comment, he's like, I don't care if he's in Indochina. I want someone waiting in a bowl of rice to pop a cap in his ass.
Yeah.
So like he could have ran through that thought process as he's like just leaving Marcellus down there and been like, well, maybe if I do this.
Yeah,
So
like even if Marcellus dies, like there will be people that are gonna like we're still gonna find him because we knew Marcellus wanted him dead. So like that makes sense. That does make sense.
yeah. So I mean, again, speculating a fictional character in like
Yeah.
a 10-minute thought process. What I love though about that like whole pawn shop scene after Butch gets upstairs is all the different references to Tarantino's other movies.
Like, do you have favorites?
Like picking up the katana, reference to
Yeah.
Kill Bill,
Yeah.
stuff like that. Picking up a
Yeah.
baseball bat, you could argue is a reference to Bastards.
Yeah. And I honestly think like another just random thought I had when I watched that was maybe it also wasn't so much about saving Marcellus as it seems like his character like Butch kind of enjoys violence and like enjoys killing a bit. And I think he kind of was like, these dudes are awful. Like I just want to kill them. like they deserve to die, and like he wanted to do that. So that's another kind of thought I had of like, okay, maybe it makes a little more sense. Because I know the first
Yeah,
time I
and
watched it, I was like, this dude would be gone. Like, but I've thought about it more. So
yeah, and you could also be thinking too, like if I save Marcellus, then he'll clean up this, so I won't even have to worry about getting caught from the police or anything, because his guys
yeah,
will come. Mr. Wolf will come.
yeah, yeah. So that's my six. I'm not saying it's bad. And I honestly, it's in this spot because I respect it and I know a lot of people like it, and I know it has a lot of relevance. But for me, it's not one I find a need to watch often at all. So
That's fair. I have 3 tattoos of Tarantino movies.
what are the other two?
So I said I have Ezekiel 25:17. I don't have like the whole thing. I just have 25:17.
Okay.
And then I have Lieutenant Aldo Rain's knife.
Okay.
And
Sweet.
then I have Hattori Hanzo's logo from Kill Bill.
Nice. That's awesome, man. I think that's great.
Yeah, which leads me into my number 6 is Kill Bill Volume 2.
Okay. Thoughts?
Again, like I said, I love the background of her learning how to fight. I always thought that was super interesting. I like getting all of the side characters, more story, and then I also liked the plot twist that her daughter is still alive, that her
Yeah.
daughter lived through it.
Yeah, it is an interesting. I know I have it really low on my list. It is an interesting movie, and I like that element of it, and just the dynamic between the bride and Bill is so. You could talk about that for a long time in and of itself. I feel like he's just the ultimate like gaslighter, just in the way he like
Oh,
manipulates,
absolutely.
and like it's a great performance. It's pretty scary, and like kind of the uncertainty of like the brief uncertainty of how she's going to react to this. Like she's seeing her daughter alive. Like I think there's a moment there where you're like, is she going to actually forgive him? But obviously, like the need for revenge is so deeply ingrained in her. Like she gets it. But I do like their dynamic, and like that alone, those performances make it a really good movie to me, even though it's low on my list here.
Yeah. One thing I absolutely hate about this movie, though, is like the truth serum that he gives her at the end, like towards the end.
It's a funny plot device. Like yeah,
It
I
is,
agree.
but it also feels like lazy writing,
Yeah, for sure.
which
Like
I know Tarantino is not known for, but like that's what it felt like to me.
I agree with that.
And then I also like seeing her I like seeing her turn though at the end when it shows like her final mission after she found out she was pregnant. How like she tries to like plead for her life
I love
and
that
everything.
scene with that assassin that comes. I think it's that kind of standoff Tarantino does so well, and the way he writes the dialogue in those moments, I really really enjoy. So I think that's a great moment. I really like it.
Yeah. And dude, there's a whole conspiracy speculation theory online that she didn't actually kill Bill because people have like slowed down the frame rate and she didn't touch her thumb to his chest for that like finger movement. And so
Yeah,
everyone's like, "Oh, he's probably still alive." And I'm like, let's calm down.
yeah, yeah. You're thinking a little too hard
Enjoy
there.
the send off for what it is.
Yeah, yeah. I like the way it wraps up her story. Like she's a great character. And I'm glad it has like a good ending for her. Like it's just a good revenge story is so satisfying. So I like it a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, kicking off your top 5.
Yeah. So at 5, easy transition. I have Kill Bill Volume 1. I rewatched this a couple weeks ago. I really, really, really like this movie. My top, all these movies in the top 5 are separated by very little for me. And again, it can fluctuate.
Absolutely. Well,
But
I'll chime in here real quick. My number 5
yeah,
is also Volume 1.
nice, perfect. Yeah,
So,
I think it's a good spot for it. The like the action here is ridiculous. Like, and I love the way it's stylized. I think this story obviously is very very dark, but I think it feels more watchable because of the way it's stylized, and these movies are almost like tongue in cheek. like they're a little ridiculous, they're a little out there. The characters are really like vibrant, and it doesn't feel so real, which I think makes it a little more palatable. Because again, like I said, with Pulp Fiction, like some of that stuff felt dark for me. Like that's just my personal taste. So this I think could have felt really dark, but the way it's kind of like snappy and tongue in cheek, I really enjoy and makes me like want to watch it more. So I love her story. I think the performance from Uma Thurman in both, they're some of the best performances in any of his films by anyone. So I think she's
Absolutely.
awesome. Yeah, I just really enjoy the way it looks, the way it feels. Like it's really rewatchable for me.
Yeah. One of the things I adore about this movie too, and like I'm not a huge anime show fan, but like I've dove into like Studio Ghibli movies and stuff, but like
Yeah,
the what like 10-15 minute section where it's just
yeah,
anime telling a Ishiren story is
yeah. And
beautifully done.
I'm not a huge anime guy either, but like it adds something really cool. And I mean, all the nods to like Japanese culture, like throughout, are really I enjoy a lot. They add something to the movie, and it's a lot of fun and kind of calls back to all the old samurai films, and westerns as well. But it's a very fun movie to me, even though it's
Oh,
dark.
absolutely. And then I like the like uniqueness of like all the weapons he made at the end, like the I forget her name, but the girl who has like the ball with spikes on the chain that she just
Yes,
kicks
yes, yes,
around.
yes. Yeah,
That's
yeah. It's
like such a beautiful like way. And I think got the inspiration from it from a 1970s Japanese film called The Flying Guillotine.
okay.
Like if you just look at the cover of it, you can see.
The weapon. That's so cool.
Yeah.
And
Like
that's the
the
thing. Like,
inspiration obviously had to come from that.
yeah, and with Tarantino, like you see that guy in the video store like throughout all his movies. Like he is that guy, and like he has so much love and appreciation and knowledge of all these films from like all over the world. And the way he like
Absolutely.
weaves that into everything is so enjoyable. And I think it's like inspiring, and like while his movies are mainstream and a lot of people have seen them, like he pushes you to watch other things and like check out stuff that's inspired him. So it's kind of like he's almost like a conduit to expanding your knowledge into other genres or directors or whatever that you might not have seen.
Yeah, I've definitely dove into a few movies just because I had heard him say something along the lines of like he pulled inspiration from this movie, and a lot of them are foreign films.
Yeah, yeah, and foreign films.
And
That's an area I want to get into more. Like I feel like I haven't seen enough. So I mean, I would definitely any recommendations you have, we can definitely talk about it. I'd love to get those.
oh yeah, I'll shoot you a text. But like, Life is Beautiful is going to be my number one always.
Yeah,
The one we talked about earlier.
yeah, for sure.
Out of all of Tarantino's movies, though, I genuinely believe Kill Bill Volume One has the hardest scene to watch, and that's when she's in the coma and the guys have been like
Yeah,
raping her.
yeah. That's another thing where I'm just like, this doesn't feel so necessary. Like, there's moments where I'm just like, why are you doing this, Quentin? Like, I don't know, but it's
It's
tough.
yeah, it's unnecessary, but like it's kind of his directorial style is to make you uncomfortable at points in
Yeah,
his movies. I think is
and,
like the big thing, whether it's
and
through
it also
torture
makes it.
or rape or
Yeah, it also makes it more satisfying when there is the payoff of those people getting killed. Like it's just way more satisfying because you're like, these people
yeah,
are irredeemably awful. You hate them, and like it makes it better when whoever was going through whatever they were going through gets payback. And I'll talk about that more later in my list, but I definitely like that.
yeah, absolutely. But I think that's the hardest scene in all of Tarantino movies to watch, and I like warn anyone who I watch that movie with.
Yeah, and it kind of comes out of nowhere. Like it definitely is like jarring when you're watching it. I feel like, but yeah,
Absolutely.
she goes through so much, and like she's such a cool character, so strong. Like I really like her character a lot.
Yeah. All right, rip your number four.
So at four, I have Reservoir Dogs.
Okay.
Similar to The Hateful Eight, I appreciate a contained story. Like I like when actors are just able to, and this you could say I have Hateful Eight really low, but this does that in a concise, quick way. So like you you don't need to spend 3 hours, I feel like, in that situation. But when it's 90 minutes and you're just getting really good dialogue, um, you come to understand at least a few of the characters, and there's some really like gripping moments. And also, just I enjoy the story, like the whole heist gone wrong um, element. I think is fun, um, and the fact that this is his first movie, like I just find that so impressive. What he was able to do.
Absolutely.
So I have a lot of respect for it, and I think it's kind of in his nature to want to drone on a bit with his stories and like really make them really elaborate and kind of expand on the world. So if he kind of reined himself in here, I appreciate that, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, I still enjoy the movie. Like I said, this might be my favorite Harvey Keitel
Yeah.
role ever, and it also might be one of my favorite opening dialogue scenes in
Yep.
movie history. When they're in the diner.
Yep. Yeah, and I think it's really efficient in how it does everything. And I can see why so many people, like, I guess a lot of people do feel like that's their number one. So I can understand that. There's other stories. I enjoy some other films where he fleshes out more characters more. I think that's something I'm kind of looking for a little more in this movie.
Yeah, I definitely get that. And I also think Tim Roth was great in this.
Yeah. Yeah, he's a talented dude.
Yeah, I don't know why he doesn't get more work. Maybe because he was in The Incredible Hulk. Which I think that's also an overhated movie. But
it's like it's meh. Like
yeah, it's very mid. Like it,
and it's tough when you're comparing it to like superhero stuff that came after it. Like it's obviously not a fair comparison, but
and it came out the same year as Iron Man. Like you can't compete.
Tough draw. Yeah. What's your four?
Mine 4 is The Hateful Eight.
Okay, I like it. I mean, I like it.
I love this movie. There's another one my wife didn't want to sit through either, which I understand. But I think all the characters in this are so well done. From the old general that hates Samuel L. Jackson to, I mean, even OB, the stagecoach driver.
Yeah,
and I really like seeing women antagonists because it's so rare. And when it is, it's like it's also rare that it's like a very well done role.
Yeah, a lot of times they're like poorly written or just like they're not given the same like attention and depth as like male villains, and that's a problem. So
I feel like writers are also scared to make them go as far as they will make a male antagonist go. But like, I think she's up there for like one of the better female antagonists. But I think the best, hands down, is got to be from Gone Girl.
Yeah.
Have you seen that movie yet?
Crazy.
Oh, it's so good. But yeah, Hateful Eight, I just love, and I love the one setting scene with like just flashbacks to different areas, and also just the surprise twist of Channing Tatum being in it.
Yeah. Some people didn't like that, and they were like, "Oh, this doesn't fit." But like, I thought it was a lot of fun. Like, I enjoyed that, and I mean, all the action toward the end is really cool. But I liked it. I like that.
I also think it's fun. I like Channing Tatum as an actor because like he has some acting chops. He just usually does comedy roles, and he's trying to get away and like do some drama pieces to prove it.
It's so tough, man, getting typecast. Like, I mean, that happened to Jonah Hill for so long. I mean, Jonah Hill's a weird weirdo, but like in terms of just talking acting, he was so typecast, and I think struggled to get away from that. But has dramatic chops. Also, I mean, did you see Foxcatcher with Channing Tatum?
I did not.
If you it's a really interesting movie. It's a true story. Steve Carell is in it. It's actually about a high school wrestling coach that is by me in Pennsylvania, and Channing Tatum plays a wrestler on the team, and like awful stuff happened with this like that entire situation. I don't want to get too much into it, but it's really dramatic, really intense. Like it's called Foxcatcher. So it's a good watch, and Tatum is like really, really good in the dramatic role. So I like that a lot.
I'm gonna have to throw it on my watch list.
Yeah. Also, really quick on female antagonists, I feel like some other greats are Kathy Bates in Misery, and also I'm gonna forget the actress's name, but in Cuckoo's Nest, Nurse Ratched is like so awful.
Oh, absolutely.
It's a great character.
Cuckoo's Nest is so good. I adored that movie, and Jack Nicholson, I think could be the best actor of all time right now, but currently I have him in my 2.
Who's your one?
Daniel Day-Lewis.
Okay, yeah, it's fair.
Yeah, and
I
then
would
3
love
is Bale.
having a conversation about Daniel Day-Lewis would be great too, because I think I've seen most of what he's done. I'm a huge, massive fan.
See, I'm still missing a few big pieces for him. Like I haven't seen Lincoln, The
Okay.
Last of the Mohicans, and then what's the most recent one that made him quit? Phantom Thread. Yeah.
It's good. It's really good. I like it.
Yeah, so I still have some Lewis to dive into, but I mean, what I've seen, dude, he's so damn good.
Yeah, he's great. That's a really good number one. I have to give that a try, like ranking out my actors. I'll give that a shot.
I'm
soon.
pretty sure I only have like my 5, so don't
Hey,
feel bad.
More than me.
What baffles me is the creators that have like their top 100 movies of all time. I'm like, that's a lot of work.
It's tough. Yeah, and like even like we're talking about here, like that changes for me so often. I don't know if that's just like a me thing or what, but
No,
like even
absolutely
this
not.
list, it's tough. It's tough.
All right, what we got for your number 3? Kicking off the top 3.
So at 3, I have Jackie Brown.
Wow.
Yeah. So
now I understand your reaction from where I put it.
Yeah, I was shook. A lot of reasons. So one, I like the way this movie looks a lot. Like I like when this comes on, like I always know instantly. It's a very like vibrant, very colorful. I really enjoy that. The cast is ridiculous, like across the board. Even like Michael Keaton as the detective, like he's very like he's an enjoyable character. He's kind of a straight man. And I think Pam Grier is just really, really good. And to me, Samuel L. Jackson here, this is his best character for me personally. Like, I feel like he's really, really iconic. He's so awful.
In all Tarantino or of all times?
In Tarantino.
Okay.
I like it a lot. And like, I know we went back and forth a bit on De Niro, but I like his inclusion here. And I think it's cool seeing Tarantino do a great story with a female lead that's like dominating the runtime. I mean, basically dominating the runtime. It is long, and I think a lot of people can find the story to be slow in points, but I also like that it's different. And I think a lot of people kind of had expectations. I believe this was after Pulp Fiction. I think people kind of expected a movie in a similar vein, and it kind of subverts that and goes in a different direction and, you know, takes a chance to be slower, more introspective, more character development. And those are all things I really appreciate in a story. Plus, like, I feel like the story itself is really, like, I like the way it weaves. I feel like there's a lot of layers to it. And I like how it unfolds. I think it's a really, really good movie. I really like it. So that's my 3.
Yeah, it's one I definitely have to give a rewatch. And you were right; it came out 3 years after Pulp Fiction. This was in between Pulp and Kill Bill.
Yeah, which is just like, to me, it's a very interesting time for him. Like that's a great run of movies. But I think sometimes movies struggle when there are expectations and then they don't match what people are expecting to see. I think there's a long list of movies that have done that, but I think this kind of dealt with that, but it's still really, really good to me.
Yeah, and I agree with exactly what you said. Like, I love the colors and like the cinematography of this movie. That's one thing Tarantino has done well in every movie. Absolutely. Yeah. So, all right, after that conversation, I'll probably have to rewatch that very soon. Because I know I'm in the unpopular opinion of ranking it in my number 10.
Yeah, I also think a lot of people haven't even watched it really. Like I just think it gets kind of like forgotten.
It's definitely swept under the rug a lot for a Tarantino movie.
Yeah, for sure.
He even said that he thinks it's better than Pulp Fiction.
Yeah, I agree with him.
He said like Reservoir Dogs did good. He said he got very popular off Pulp Fiction, but he thought he should have got popular off Jackie Brown if he were to off any movie.
He's a smart man.
All right, my 3 is Django Unchained.
Okay. Well, let's talk about it. What are your thoughts?
Like I can understand the argument completely if someone has this as their number 1. Mm-hmm. My 1 through 3 I can see interchanged for number 1, but 1, this should have been what Leo got his Oscar for, not The Revenant.
Okay, fair.
Like I think him like messing up his entire hand, but still just acting through it and screaming was phenomenal. I think Jamie Foxx, this is probably his best role, like ever.
Yes.
Not in a Tarantino movie, I think ever.
Yeah.
Christoph Waltz is fantastic in both his roles. He's also, I think, if I remember this correctly, he was the first actor in a Tarantino movie to win an Oscar, and it was for Inglourious Bastards. But he also won one for Django.
That's honestly wild that that's the first, given the great performances. But yeah, he's incredible. He brings so much to anything he's in. I really, really enjoy him. Can I ask, like, when you were making this, what elements of it, like, drop it behind your top 2? Like, is there anything that stands out to you in terms of negative components?
I think the other 2, I just personally rewatch more, and I enjoy the rewatches more.
Okay.
That's really all it is. I mean, I think they're all 3 on the same playing field as far as script, cinematography, and everything. You're going to disagree with one of the takes. But, and then, dude, like, this one might be one of my favorite scripts of all time. Like, just the entire scene where they're at the cotton field, and he's like, "Are you positive?" He's like, "I don't know." He's like, "You're not positive?" He's like, "I don't know what positive means."
So snappy. It's so good.
Yeah. And just watching Django himself, like, go through all of these, emotions to learn, because all he's known his entire life is slavery.
Yeah.
And then also, it's just such a controversial time for Tarantino to make a slavery movie.
Yeah.
And, like, he just put a different twist on it. Like, everyone else would just make it more about slave owners back then, or, like, how slaves were treated, and, like, the Underground Railroad or something. Instead, Tarantino made his slave a bounty hunter.
Yeah. Yeah, and just, I mean, we already know how awful everything was that everyone went through, and they show you snippets of that, but just getting to focus on the revenge aspect of it and just these people getting everything they deserve is like so brilliant, and it's so satisfying to me. I'll talk about it more a bit later, but I really enjoy it.
It's got some of the most quotable lines in movie history for me. Like, I can't see fucking shit out of this. Anytime, like the other day, like, I'm a bartender right now, and one of the guys that I made the drink for, who I really like, he made some comment like getting snippy with me, and I was like, I work all day out here, and all I hear is criticize. Like, the movie is so quotable. Oh yeah, he's a huge movie nerd too. We talk him every time he's at my bar, because I work at a country club, so I don't get like random guys. I have like a regular clientele that I see.
Nice. That's good, especially like when you can talk movies with those people. Like, it's fun to have that back and forth.
Oh, absolutely. He's checked out a few of the episodes, so like he might listen to us talk about this.
Nice. Well, shout out to him for catching that reference.
Exactly. All right, you're number 2.
Yeah, so at number 2, almost a coin flip. I have Inglourious Bastards. There is nothing I don't like about this movie. I think it's so tough. Like, I try to find something negative to talk about when I'm looking at a movie. Like, I try to, even if I like it, I try to find something to comment on that I think could be better. I can't really find it. Like, these characters are just so fun to me. And that's what this movie is. Like, it is fun. It's enjoyable. You can watch it over and over and over again. And it just seems like, everyone involved seems
I genuinely think it has the best opening. I think it is the best opening out of any movie ever.
Yeah, and like this movie could have felt too long. I think like it could have felt like it dragged, but even in the moments that are taking a long time, that they're taking their time with in terms of the back and forth, um, where there could be lulls in the script, like it's effective because of how good the performances are, and a lot of that falls on Christoph Waltz. Another one of my favorite scenes is in the bar in the basement when they're undercover with all the German officers. That is brilliant. I love Michael Fassbender.
Say out
And
Peter's
just,
hand to your Nazi balls.
yeah, I mean, Hugo Stiglitz, like it's so good. And like you said, the opening, um, it's so hard to watch, and the way that develops all the little moments with the milk and the pipe, and just like all the little power plays that go on. Um, and
Do you know about all the little details in the beginning too?
no,
When he
I'd
meets
love
the
to hear.
daughters. So he's obviously looking for Jews, like,
Yeah,
enemies of the state. If you go back and rewatch the opening scene, and there's small details throughout the entire movie you can pick up on, like when he makes Shoshana try and eat the like whipped cream. But like in the beginning scene, when he meets all the daughters and he like grabs their hand to shake it, he puts his fingers on their wrist to feel their pulse to see if they're nervous.
that's honestly crazy. I never realized that. And like even
Yeah,
like
someone had to point it out to me.
yeah, and like the way his character is written, he's always trying to have the upper hand. Like he's always trying to be in control, always kind of exerting like power over everyone else. Like the way he like grabs people, um, the way he changes like his tone of voice, like the way he changes his face to just like play with people's emotions. Like that performance is crazy. I think he's one of the
Absolutely.
great villains of all time.
Well, and then the tension building in the beginning too, and like why I love Tarantino's tension shots is just how close to the camera gets every time like the conversation goes on
Yeah,
until finally he says, "You're sheltering enemies of the state, aren't you?"
yeah. And it's just I don't know the name of the actor that plays the father there, but like like that's brilliant. Like that's incredible. As he's just kind of like, and you really put yourself in his shoes, like he's trying to keep his composure, trying not to break under this like insane pressure, but the whole time it's just like completely useless because the outcome has already been determined. It's a great scene.
Yeah, his name. I'm gonna butcher it, but it's Denis Menoche, however you say it in French. But
Okay.
yeah, it looks like he's really only been in like French films, but then he's in Inglorious Bastards, The French Dispatch, and then Beau is Afraid are his three biggest.
Okay. Yeah, I like that performance a lot, even though it's small.
Oh, he crushed it.
Um, and just every side character, like BJ Novak being in this is really funny to me. Uh, Dami Domowitz, like the bear Jew, he's just like so much energy, such a big personality.
That
Um,
was originally supposed to be Adam Sandler.
I did not know that. Are you
I
serious?
don't think I would have liked this movie as much if it was, but yeah, it was originally supposed to be Sandler. I think Sandler was working on Jack and Jill.
Oh my god, he did
I
not make the right choice there. That's a
oh,
shame.
not at all. But I mean, dude, like, I don't know if it would have landed as well for me.
I think having just a face that's that big and a name that's big can sometimes be jarring with smaller roles because you're just like focused on that rather than the actual character or what's happening. So I agree with you. But yeah, I love this movie so much, and I'll never get tired of watching it like ever.
It was only made because of Christoph Waltz.
Did not know that in terms of
Yeah.
his casting or financially
Yeah,
or what.
because for the Colonel role, Tarantino wanted someone who could speak, I think, 3 languages, and Christoph Waltz is fluent in, I believe, 5.
Wow.
But he needed